You mentioned you also gained lifelong friends and you had this incredible reach. I do know that you also had some celebrity engagement. So talk a little bit about your engaging celebrity, because I want to go into, after we talk about this, we're going to talk more about the risk aspects. But I just want to make sure
Sure.
the audience gets full context and the depth and breadth of the impact that you had with, like you said, the limited
Yeah.
resources. So once we get that picture, we'll go, like I said, we'll talk more. So give us a better idea about the celebrity engagement that you had and what that looked like.
Yep. Yep. Great. So I hope my former assistant is not listening to this podcast right now, because she walked in my office one day with the mail, and she had printed out a couple emails and said these came to the general mailbox, Mark, and it's from this Kevin at glenbeck.com. Is this trash? I'm like, no. Do you know who Glenn Beck is? And she's like, not really. Well, for those of you that don't know who Glenn Beck is, he's a good friend of mine now. He's a polarizing individual in the media that is very opinionated. He talks about politics. He talks about religion. He talks about the stock market. He talks about anything that could be potentially controversial. And this Kevin talked to me about the fact that his mom had breast cancer. What can we do to help? And I said, wow, Kevin, I'm going to be in New York next week. Can I come see you? And he said, I'd love that. So we
Did
set up a meeting.
you actually have a trip to New York, or did you make that up because he wanted to meet with you?
Well, I said goodbye to Kevin. I got off the phone and I got on my computer and bought a plane ticket to New York. I'm going to New York. But you know what? That you've got to be ready for that moment. And at that from that time, Kevin and I have become friends. Actually, he has been a reference for me professionally, because of the relationship we built and the trust and just the camaraderie. But Glenn ended up having a fundraiser for us. He did a show
I
on
was there. I got to
his
see it.
television.
I got to see it in
You
person.
came to the fundraiser, and it was a great evening. We raised over $100,000 from affluent people in New York City, and got to meet Glenn after the show. And it was one of those things that you know, Glenn did so much good for us. At the same time, we were talking with Glenn. We had been a part of what was called the Pink Well Challenge, and it was a gentleman who owned oil wells in Texas, and he painted one pink to raise money for breast cancer research. And he partnered with Ellen DeGeneres. And again, another viral contest, kind of like the Pepsi Repressed, but it was one for 25,000, only 25,000. So while we were participating in that, we had the opportunity to communicate with Ellen's team, and we were promoting her show, giving out the money, all this kind of stuff. And I had to laugh because, there couldn't be people on two different spectrums than Ellen and Glenn. And yet their their commonality was the fact that they both hated cancer. And they hated the fact that the current treatments, chemotherapy, radiation, was horrifying. And it was terrible. And the fact that we needed a better way to treat it, and we had the solution. And they wanted to be a part of that. So they had the audiences that I never could have reached, and could have gone out and met with these people, and they talked to their audiences, and it was very transformative. So it didn't come without, and we're going to talk about risk in a minute. So I'll talk about what the risk was of doing that with my board as we move forward.